Greetings, guys, gals, and non-binary pals, and welcome back to the stream, or the channel, if you happen to be seeing this on the YouTubes later. My name's Ren, and today we are looking at, as you can see from the side here, chapters 3 and 4 of Daughter of the Forest by Juliet Marillier. So, yeah, it, I was halfway through chapter 3 and it's like, this is starting to sound familiar. Because it's based on folklore and stuff. Very cool. Also, just as a random side tangent, so I finished this little guy. I think I'm, like, at least for now, I'm just gonna leave him like this. Maybe make a little sweater or something. But like, the original, because I had to mess with the pattern, because the original, one sec. There we go. Yeah. So like that was the original. So like, for a good couple of days, the legs stopped like here, and that it was bugging me. So I took them off and extended the pattern a little bit. So we've got this little guy. Rather happy with it. But so I did that one, and then I did this guy. And I don't know if it's gonna stay on this little buddy or not, but I made a little necklace sort of thing when I was listening to the chapters last night. So yeah. And then this is like the bottom part of what was gonna be, yeah. Yeah, it got big. This is what was gonna be the bottom part of the other one, because I got the directions wrong. I thought it was gonna start from the neck and go down, and it didn't. So like, until I figure out what else to do with it, it's got a hat, sort of. But we'll see. Yeah. He's a snuggly little dude over there. So, yeah, boy. We'll see what? Anyway, we'll see, past that, what we get up to today. So, as a thing, if I sound a bit off, we've got a sore throat situation right now. I'm not sick, but the way my system tends to work is like the first couple of days before or after period, I'm really sensitive to sugar in excess of whatever. So, like, if I have too much, then the throat gets all funky. So, that's where we are right now. Past that, how is everybody doing? I don't know. Cause like, yeah. And thank you for the hugs. Real slow button. There we go. Okay, happy it's BBC time. Understandable. Fully understandable. Yeah. So, here we go. Alright. Any, like, before we just dive into it, any particular observations and whatnot y'all want to talk about, or just into the shenanigans? Yeah, wait your reactions. Alright. So, where's my phone? There we go. Into the shenanigans. Yes. Yes, indeed. Alright. So, we left off with, Sorcha and Simon having a chat in the hut, cottage, the cottage that Father Brian lives in, right? So, and you know, if it sounds like I'm just chucking rocks everywhere, I kinda am, but not really. Because, like, Yeah, that. Oh, so I'm just checking things everywhere. There we go. So we've got some citron and rose quartz and howlite and lava and tiger's eye, sodalite, and amethyst that might get made into something as we're talking about stuff, and it depends. We'll see. We'll see. Anyway, so we left off with Sorcha and Simon. Hard indeed, yes. With Sorcha and Simon having a chat about life and whatnot, and exchanging stories, and Simon starts talking about a story involving a younger brother who was trying to make a name for himself because his older brother had already, at least from his perspective, essentially taken everything, aside from this one random plot of land that nobody wanted. It's kind of obvious that the younger brother is Simon at that point. So there we go. And as we see, like, constantly, really, Simon's got severe PTSD from or at least what I would perceive to be severe PTSD, yes, because it has all the hallmarks of that. Post torture session with the guards, on top of trying to, like, physically recover from everything. And okay. She was there for a week. Two of the guys came to pick her up. She said no. And she was there for another bit. So I'm trying to remember, like, I want to say it was like 2 weeks that she was staying at Father Brian's cottage to take care of Simon. But I also want to say it was like a month. Which I realize in a lot of, like, legends and stuff, time is kind of a wibbly wobbly sort of situation. But, like, I don't know. Especially because everyone was so surprised that the troops were back so fast. Because it was a real short, like, campaign sort of situation. So, I don't know. on that. I remember that there was a note that she was making a wreath of red berries and skeletal leaves. During Simon's, narration of the tale, essentially, about the younger brother. But past that, not much context. But, in the depiction, in the narrative sort of thing, it seems like the dad wouldn't have had enough time to really get to know Lady on a... Yeah, no, seriously, it seems like it was a real fast turnaround, so there was probably some kind of mystical, magical something happening up in there. Especially with how, everyone else in the keep was acting. Honestly. But yeah. So, okay. We've got... With the wreath thing, we've got blood red berries, and actually, is that? There we go. Slightly more centered now. Yeah. And skeletal leaves. So, the botanical representation of blood and bone as a wreath, well, he's talking about the conflicted relationship, I suppose, between him and his brother. But, as a third person narration to, in theory, get some distance from it, or to not have to, own it as, this is my story, that this is what I'm dealing with. So, nice symbolism, catch, didn't catch that? There we go. But yeah, in conjunction with Simon having severe PTSD, he's also, exhibiting some pretty definite suicidal ideation, so just, that is an element in there, as well as, the torture and the general violence from the time period and all that. And yeah, at one point, at one point, Sorcha just got a cramp on the top of my foot. Ow. Oh man. But at one point, Sorcha, knowing that, oh, well, Thank you for the stretch. Apparently, the shoulder needed that. Alright. Ow. But yeah, at one point, knowing that Simon would have to, like, vacate the premises eventually, Sorcha sewed a Rowan cross into his shirt, tunic, some part of his clothes with red thread as like a protective measure. And he was all like confused about it, but like, alright, you did the thing, fine, whatever. And it's like, what was it? It's right after that Finbar and Cormac and Liam show up together. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, okay. So, Serena has to leave. And Father Brian's gone to town and get supplies. So Simon's just kind of there, left to his own devices, and apparently runs off for whatever reason. Whether it's, you know, realizing that someone could come to the cottage and being away from a known habitation point would be safer, or something else. We don't know at this point in the story, because that's the last that we see of Simon, at least at the current point of the end of chapter 4. We shall see. Also, I'm not entirely sure how much of this was chapter 3 and how much was chapter 4, because, like, it just kind of kept going through. Like, I had like 20 minutes left of chapter 4 and realized that it was on a new chapter, so that, yeah. Does it really matter in the grand scheme of things? Not really, but like, for keeping of records. For keeping of records and whatnot, there is that. Yeah. So, we've got lavender, oil, and beeswax as a salve to treat injuries, which works. It would have the adhering ability plus like the antimicrobial and stuff, so that works. And yeah, there's it is interesting that Simon kept a lock of Sorcha's hair, so that would be interesting to see where it goes later. Because, like, especially when contrasted with Una wanting some of Sorcha's hair, because just from, like, the menacing nature of her interactions with everyone, that would be, like, a control thing versus a memory thing, or like potentially like a hope thing of like this person cared enough to make sure that I was okay, versus like Una, who gives some real strong like you have my hair and you're gonna use it to do real bad things type situation, especially because like there there's certain like magics that need parts of the physical body, whether it's like nail clippings or hair or like blood or whatever else. And some of them are protective because it has, and it's stronger because there's a like a physical connection to the person. But a lot of them are also like really not, depending on who it is and what the intent is and everything else. And it's just like, no. On top of which, Una's just freaking creepy. Ugh. On top of, also, we've got Dermot acted all kinds of ways that, like, yeah, creepy and vicious. Like, Dermot, like, from what we've seen of him prior to this, and how he's acting in, like, 3 and 4, like, ugh. The amount of, like, manipulation that's going on from Una with her friggin' whatever insanity. Like, no, no. Like, and I don't use that lightly. Like, just like, no. On top of which, if she and the Lady of the Forest are essentially polar forces, like, the forest spirits aren't inherently good or like bad just because they're like they're nature, and nature isn't inherently good or bad, it just is, and whatever is out of alignment with like nature tends to be the opposite. So like uh Jermaine coming out of her bedroom, yeah, like he's what, like she's almost 13. Um, youngest brother is what, like 14 maybe? So Dermot is what, like max 15 probably? And I realized that like that seems to be the age of betrothal slash marriage for a lot of these people, because we've got Una talking about Sorcha getting married off in 2 years, but like, oh, okay, okay. At least there's that, but still, freaking gross. Especially when it's, dudes obviously under the influence of some kind of mental fuckery. At least he's like, 18 plus though. But still. Jeez. Oh. Yeah, okay, yeah. He's the second under Liam, and then it's Connor and Cormac. Yeah. Which was what was throwing off Sorcha when she was talking to the Lady of the Forest, because she was mentioning that Connor would run the house, and he was like third in line. Yeah, okay. Good point. Seriously though, like the whole that whole little mini arc is just creepy as hell. Alright. I will say though, I really enjoy the, and we saw it in Wolfskin too, but the elements of actual like ritual practice that are put in there as like cultural markers and stuff. Because there's, where is it? There's a note in there that's repeated a few times. That's like always ask permission before taking live wood, and if at all possible, use like dead wood, and especially if you're taking live wood, but also like if it's dead wood, leaving like an offering. It doesn't have to be like a lot, but like a stone or a favorite feather or something that means something to you, because the tree is giving up something that means something to them as like a reciprocal exchange. Because that's very much a thing. Like, I don't know how cross practice it is, but when I was talking to people in Britain, that's very much a thing, and that's something that's translated over to the States too, with pagan spiritualities. At least sometimes, not as much as I would like is that implemented, but I have seen it sometimes. It's not very subtle about it either, or maybe that's because we're seeing through Serica's eyes. Yeah. It's because part of it, I think, is Serica is, I wouldn't call her an adept exactly, because that would tend to be more like with Connor, but she's definitely in tune with um the place, like the spirits of place and her people, and is very observant, and like has to be because she's the doctor for the area, and being observant like that could mean the difference between your patient living and dying. So even though she's only like not even 13, like that's definitely a skill that she's developed over the last like what 8 years or something at least. Because I think there was a mention that she started helping with herbs and stuff when she was like 5 or something like that. And on top of that, because the ruling lord is essentially under Una's control at this point, going against her in any capacity is seen as a direct um, challenge, I suppose, of his authority. So, knowing that, and knowing that she has control over him, and she's probably not thinking it would be too much of an issue whether or not she's subtle about it. And especially talking to the kids, she's kind of figured that either she can get everyone on her side from the looks of it, or manipulate everyone into going against them. And I mean, she turns everyone into swans, so there's that. But yeah, it. Come on. There's that. Yeah. Also, as a thing, there's a particular birch tool that one of the brothers made Serica to help with planting, to like dig the holes and stuff for bulbs, which sounds a lot like one of the bulb. I forget what the actual term is, but it's like a core sort of thing where you just punch it down and it takes up a piece of the soil, so you can put a bulb down in there and then you just pat the soil back down. But it's made out of birch, which is the same tree. Like the mother tree isn't old enough probably to have that much like dead wood and stuff. Or to have like a lot of like fallen branches or whatnot. Even though they do grow really fast and it's been there for almost 13 years. But he made it out of birch, which, as we discussed last week, it's a plant of like renewal and reestablishment, and it's also associated with their mom, so it's got like it's protective and new life and things. So you're planting bulbs with a symbol of protection and new life that's connected to your matrilineal line. Pretty strong stuff there. We thought it was basically a stick. Your idea makes more sense though. Yeah, it's if it was just regular seeds, it could be a stick. But because bulbs, like especially like crocus and stuff, the bulbs tend to be like somewhere around like that size. And unless you wanted to compact the dirt, which you don't tend to want to do under where the roots would go, you would need to just kind of like remove it and then deposit it again. So, yeah. Okay, so in addition to the whole Una wanting to cut Serica's hair because that's a thing apparently, and with that we've got just okay across cultures, right? Cross cultures, like there's a bunch of examples in like certain parts of Native American tradition and like the Middle East and in Celtic regions and stuff where your hair is connected in some fashion to your strength or identity or cultural lineage. And cutting that essentially removes that part of your identity. Different if like you decide that you want to cut it for like a new start or because like it's too heavy or whatever else. Like I for the majority of my life I had hair down past my butt, and now like it's weird to me to have hair on the back of my neck now because like it's grown out to like here I need to cut it again. But that's like that's a personal choice. That's not something external. So on top of the like weird removal of power situation that Una's trying to pull on one of the few people in the keep compound. Wouldn't be a compound because the village is like a ways away. Remember brushing and styling, which would be useful because Hypnotic and shed hair. I don't remember Una wanting to cut it. And there was a part in there that she was brushing it and Remember water, friends. There was a part in there that she was brushing it and it's like, oh yeah, we should style it. Like, you should let me cut your hair. You should let me cut it. And that's around when Sorcha what? Sorcha, there we go. Yeah. That was around when Sorcha was like noticing that something was wrong. And kept seeing like the eyes and the animals in the mirror kind of glow weirdly whenever she tried to fight what Una was doing. Which, as a segue, that freaking creepy magic mirror situation, like, aesthetically speaking, a mirror, excuse me, a mirror with animals surrounding it with jeweled eyes sounds like it would be cool. But also, because I know like mythology and folklore and whatever, that sounds like the kind of situation that would go south real fast. Just because in a situation like this, that's like the you have a lot of lore about a mirror that tries to steal your soul or stiction a mirror reality or something like, Alice in Wonderland esque and whatever, or whatever else. And if you have a bunch of animals around it, that it doesn't, at least currently, like there's no depiction of it. I think they were described as not being normal animals too. Probably. Yeah. There was some mention of fantastical animals. Good point. At which point, there's allusions to their dad acting like, or well, no, their dad's acting weird, but it's Dermont. Yeah. You imagine Newts TBH, which is unfair to Newts, which are rather cute. Newts are cute. They are. They're cool little dudes. They don't get enough good press, honestly. But, like, depending on the animals involved, if they are fantastical, if they are potentially of fairy, as it were, that would be an element. Ooh. Oh, okay. One sec. 1 second while I consult the Oracle. Okay. Okay. Remembering correctly. Need an Oracle consulting song. Yes, yes we do. Okay, so didn't register until I said something just now, but animals of the Fey realm have red eyes generally. In lore, at least coming from uh, the British Isles area, well, most of the Celtic regions, really. Animals from like the Fae and the undercountry tend to have red eyes. So you have certain ones where it's the particular dogs that more or less are like white with red eyes, and depending on who it is who's interacting with them, they can either be very protective or rather antagonistic. Yeah, I think there's a distinction made of Una being a sorceress, not Fae. Yeah, no, that would make sense, but as a thing, because like rubies have, I forget if it's ruby or garnet. I'm pretty sure it's rubies though. Have a connection there too. So it's like, is that a nod to this being a particular artifact that she happened to have with her? Or just like, that's the imagery that was chosen and happened, like, and the object happens to fit her purpose because she, like, made it into some kind of compulsion device? Or is it something else? We've heard of Fey animals having red markings other than eyes, like white with rusty ears. Yeah, that too. That too. Definitely. But the red and white tends to be a big part of it, from what I've heard. Yeah. But yeah. It's the spirit sort of thing. Um I don't know how widespread that is with like as far as like spirit animal representation. But yeah. Um where was I? Also, it could have been something like there being something in the air and anyone who happened to be in there is more susceptible to it, but wanted to somehow make her mulberry eyes symbolic, but couldn't find anything about mulberry that supported our nasty feelings about it. Okay, just to see, are there any negative connotations about mulberry? Depending on the culture, it's a symbol of nature, faith, growth, or death. The leaves and other parts of the tree contain a milky white sap. It's a latex. It's mildly toxic to humans. Causes skin irritation. It's very irritating. I can say that much. Produce a lot of pollen. Consuming a large amount of unripe mulberry fruit can cause hallucinations. So there's that, apparently. Alright. Alright. Maybe. Okay, I looked up purple eye symbolism because, like, if it wasn't the mulberry tree, then maybe, like, the color would have something. And the first thing that comes up is it's a mark of the supernatural, an unusual trait, like, eye color that marks a character as supernatural. Purple is powerful. Purple eye is used to symbolize a character's prowess and coolness. Somewhat random. One of the top 3 allergens here today is dock, which came up last time. Didn't know it grew around here. Well, I am glad that we had to discuss about it. Sorry to hear that is an issue at the moment, though. Uh, it's okay. So sometimes if it's like the green eyes thing, if green eyes are mentioned, sometimes it's just the eye color, but sometimes it's envy. And for this, purple is a symbol of royalty and um like spiritual prowess and stuff. So I don't know. We'll see. It just caught our attention when looking at the allergen forecast because hey, we gotta know something about that plant. Good to know. For pollen in the area, maybe? Because that would make more sense than what I had in my head. Admittedly. That's cool. I am glad that we could be of assistance to the knowledge gathering process and things, you know. Yeah, the area pollen forecast. Okay. Alright. Good to know. It, like, I'm glad that that's a thing. Like, I haven't needed to access it. Supernatural, death, toxic, irritating, hallucinogenic, all works for it, right? This is toxic pain in the ass. Yeah, very much. Uh, honestly. Uh, like, seriously. We dull for freaking BS, right? Um, and like, the phrasing when it comes to certain plant names, okay? They're walking through and like, oh yes, the angel eyes plant. Because it's light blue and looks like the sky on a nice spring day. No angels would smile upon this wedding. Because it's like A, real depressing, and B, kind of overcast. It fits so well. And like the description of um their them communing with their mom or their mother's spirit, where it's we lit 7 white candles and burned juniper berries, which check. Yeah, okay. For cleansing and protection, generally. Um, as far as like ritual goes and stuff. It'd be the same as like having a protection thing. And then Eilish is taken ill, and it's only because Sorcha like knows the plants as much as she does that she can recognize that she was poisoned with monkshood at the wedding. Like, really, honestly. Come on. Okay. I know it's a plot point. I know it's a thing to just further establish that Una is a bad, horrible person, right? But, like, okay. The gardeners are acting. How is Eilish even a threat? That was just pure malice. Yeah, no, seriously. Seriously, that's like trying to punch a kitten. What are you doing? Seriously. She's just there, doing her thing. The only reason that would be a thing to do is because Liam loves her. That's it. Just like, why did the animals start dying? Because they're loved. The only reason that like 90% of the stuff that's happened since she showed up has happened is to fully destabilize the community and annihilate any kind of goodwill between their dad and the kids, because they can see what's going on, or well, most of them. Dermot is still having a situation, but it's just pure mental manipulation and abuse of power and everything else, and malice and just straight up evil, really. Like, okay, you have someone who just okay, in any other capacity, someone tells you, I can't stop going to the village because I'm the only one who knows how to use the herbs. I'm the only doctor that these people have access to. If I don't go see them, people will die. And your response is to ban the person from going and doing rounds like they've done for the last, like, better part of a decade. And ordering the gardeners to destroy the only medical supplies that the entire keep has. I get that they're acting on orders and probably don't have much of a choice, but even for, like, if you're not like fully under the thrall of whatever she's doing, that right there, in and of itself, like regardless of anything else, they all know that the order came directly from Una. What other, like, what kind of logic can you possibly try and spin to have that be a rational option to anyone in the vicinity? You know? Like, how? Especially, like, what time of year would it have been? Crocus, it would be coming. Yeah, so they're still in winter. They're coming out of winter, but they're still in winter. So the crocus and other bulbs are planted so that they can come back in the spring. Well, no, actually, wait. Are they going into winter? Okay, one sec. Oh man. After ranting for that whole bit, remembering that the sore throat is a thing. Okay, one second. What for destabilizing our strongest remaining opponent? Sorcha killing blow. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Um. 'Cause yeah, it's. I rewatched Black Panther a couple days ago, and there's a part in there where there's an outsider who seemingly. So, like, again, because, I'm on a Marvel kick, if anyone has not seen it and wants to see it, maybe, like, without spoilers, you might want to skip ahead, like, a minute or so, because there's a thing there. Um, there's an outsider who has seemingly killed the king at this particular point. And in order to, like, in that society, in order to fully become king and the Black Panther, because they're the same person, because the king is the strongest of the warriors and is able to defend the people, so therefore is also the Black Panther. And in order to get those abilities, they drink a I don't know that it would be a juice, but like they intake like a crushed up um material that's called the heart-shaped herb, because it's a heart-shaped fruit, I suppose, that glows, and it imbues the drinker with the properties of the panther. And at one point, as an act of saying, like, there's not gonna be any kings after me, uh, because like the structure's gonna change and everything else, has the keepers of these special plants, because there's an entire field pretty much in the sacred space. And in order to like cement that no one could follow after him, essentially, makes the protectors of the space burn the plants. And that's mentioned to one of the other characters, and he's just like, yeah, I mean, that's what he was trained to do. Like, he was trained to go into a community and destabilize it any way possible. Like, you destroy the infrastructure and the water systems and resituate the like ruling body and completely break the people. That's what you do. Like, yeah. And yeah, if you want to tune back in, this is the end of the little mini Marvel rant. So there we go. Yeah. Whoa. But yeah. So we've got that. And Una wants the power from the child being the seventh son of a seventh son, plus getting all the other sons out of the way, so we'll inherit. There is that, yes. There is definitely that. And the idea that, like, just as a final blow, right, we've got Sorcha and everyone else, like, all the kids trying to get their dad to see how bad she is. And she runs out all, like, happy and stuff. And she's just, and Sorcha's just there, like, right, okay, well, I might be aware of it before she is, but, like, that, she's pregnant, that's great. And now the entire community doesn't have any kind of medical care, which is fun. But yeah, so we've got I did find it interesting though, like in a kind of funny, kind of like, oh ouch sort of way of like, we have to get everyone there tomorrow. Everyone has to be present tomorrow. Like, in any way possible. They all have to be there. So, knowing that Dermot has been, like, off his head for the last, like, however long, week, couple of days, whatever. Liam gets him completely wasted, and the both of them just show up at dawn completely drunk off their faces and are trying to do whatever. Because that was the only way to get his brother there. The idea that you're so, like... it wouldn't be brainwashing at that point. It'd be... Well, at that point, what's the difference between being brainwashed and, like, mind control? For this particular context. Because the way that no difference really. Fair. The way that Dermot is behaving is very much like being in a mind controlled stupor, but more active. Because like if someone is being described as being in a stupor, like I would envision it as like kind of not non-responsive, but like not able to actively run after somebody as much. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. Full mind control situation there. But yeah, it's besotted. Yeah. Yeah, there's that. He definitely is. I like once again, I really appreciate like the attention to detail when it comes to like the ritual practice. Like seriously, the seven of them trying to summon the Lady of the Forest was like spot on. Very cool. There might have been like some extras thrown in there and stuff, but the wording and some of the motions and stuff are highly regional and depend a lot on the particular lineage that you're operating within. So, yeah. It's not the same, like, technique and the same, like, verbiage and stuff that I use usually, but it works, and it's accurate, and it's cool, and Una's a freaking jerk. Like, seriously. So we've got Una turning the six brothers into swans. And Sorcha hiding in a tree until she's like able to think enough to get herself over to Father Brian's. And from the point that they were having a chat with their mom's spirit, I was kind of getting a vibe there and couldn't quite place it until we got to the swan part of it, and it's like, wait, this sounds familiar. I know I haven't read this one yet. But, like, this sounds really familiar. Like, I know how this story goes. So I looked it up, and it's like the siblings being turned into birds is a really common European folktale. Specifically, like, what was it? It seems to be a legend, a blend of the legend of the children of Lear, who were turned into swans for 900 years, and there's like weird Christian elements to it of like they had to, what was it? At least in the version that I read, which is probably not the, original, but in the version I read, it's one of those that, like, for 300 years they could stay at the lake where uh where they were born. And then they had to move to uh a seaside area that was like buffeted by really heavy winds for 300 years. And then they could move to this like random island for 300 years. And they would remain swans until there was a bell toll. So they eventually made it to this place where like the bell was ringing because it signified that St. Patrick had come to Ireland and now there was Christianity on the island. Something tells me that's not the original. Just as a thing. Just because, here's a bit of a history of rewriting local lore. Just a little, just a little bit, slightly. So there's that. Yeah. Yeah, right. Big face palm for Christianity. Like, what are y'all doing? Come on, you're doing too much. That's what you're doing. And it was like a mix of that and Dolopathos, which later became the Night of the Swan heroic tale or the Six Swan story. And this is most closely similar to the Six Swans story that the Brothers Grimm recorded in like 1812, I believe. Yeah. So there's that. Where the main character that we're following is not allowed to speak in any fashion, or her brothers will remain cursed to stay swans. She must spin and weave shirts for her brothers out of, in this case, it's starwort plant. In the German one, it just said star plant, and the caveat being that it was a Wikipedia article, so when I clicked it, it just went to Asteraceae. So daisies, it doesn't have quite the same, like, bite to it, shall we say, as starwort that's, like, gonna sting your hands and stuff and be massively painful, as we established in, like, the first few lines of the story. So, there's that. Between dusk and dawn on midwinter and midsummer, they'll return to human form at that lake. She's not barred from mind speak with her brothers, but must not speak of her story. So, like, the events that are happening. So, that is unique to Daughter of the Forest, because she has that really strong connection to her brothers. And upon completion, she must clothe with 6 wands and the shirts in order to set them free from the enchantment, in order that they might regain human form. So, there's that. Yeah. And we've got, like, after relaying all of this info, the Lady of the Forest, because she finally shows up, just, after everyone's turned into swans, aside from Sorcha, which, that's useful. uh, there we go. It's like one of those times that there's a burp, but it's just kind of like there. It's annoying. Alright, moving on. So, Lady of the Forest relays all of this, says that you have to leave if you want to do this so that you can stay safe and be able to continue what you're doing and all that. And fades out. She sees Father Brian has been killed or is dead. And because she can't talk anymore now, for the foreseeable future, really, she thinks the words of the Christian prayer, or a Christian prayer, and sprinkles some rue, tansy leaves, and some of the monk's hood that Father Brian had in his stores over him as the only real funerary rites that she's able to do for him, because it would take too long and too much energy and things to either bury him or give away her position to build a pyre for him as much as she wanted to. Okay. Now, because time was a why the funerary monks said? Any question? Um, Aconite or monkshood. It's for protection and invisibility. An infusion of aconite can be sprinkled on ritual items to charge them with protective energy. Roots and leaves can be burned in a ritual fire for the same purpose. Use caution not to ingest or inhale fumes. That doesn't have anything to do with. Hmm. There we go. Um. Kill any scavengers that try and eat them. Only thing I can think of. That could be part of it. Definitely. Um. The ethnic cultural significance for the use of plants in ancient funerary rituals and its possible implications with pollens found on the Shroud of Turin. Okay. That, yeah, alright. That's cool. That wasn't what I was looking for, but alright. Cool. Um, nothing's coming to mind exactly. Uh, for that, it with funerary rites, it tends to be fumigants. So things that kind of delay decay a bit or clear the air because um, decomposing human is kind of toxic sometimes, depending on uh, what extenuating circumstances there are and stuff. Not all the time, but like, you know, if nothing else, there's usually a smell that starts developing. Okay, just stuck out to us because poison. Yeah, it that and there's like it it's wolfsbane essentially. So yeah. Maybe it's as simple as the name monkshood. He was a monk. That could be part of it. Yeah. It's also a symbol used to often mean a warning. Okay. So there's that. Okay. So Serica didn't have time to ID the cause of death, whether it was like a heart attack or he'd been stabbed or whatever. And okay, there. I'm guessing that it was a dig at Cormac having attacked Lynn because Una was there. But before she turned them all into swans, she said something about uh, Cormac already having fallen or something, and asked him how it felt to twist the knife. So I'm guessing the first part was him attacking Lynn, and the second part was a note about like him fighting alongside uh, his dad and the other guys won on campaign. But we see Father Brian dead in like the next scene. So is that a note that she had him kill Father Brian in a previous like in like the previous scene because he wasn't at the house that night? Like he disappeared for a couple hours and then came back. Um, or am I reading into it too much? Because like for that one, if it's a spoiler thing like that's cool. You can let me know. Cause like I'm thinking that the dude just died and it was an unrelated thing. But this is one of those times like I want to know if I'm wrong on that one. um, and then the last thing that we see for chapter 4 is Serica setting off into the forest to flee from Una and anyone she might have sent after her with the, whatever provisions Father Brian had, and Lynn and the court and the horse for company. Okay, that was both a dig about Lynn and a reference to Serica helping Simon. Okay, don't think it had to do with Father Brian. Gotcha. Because like with as broken up as Cormac was about hitting Lynn, like I don't want to have him have to deal with more BS. Like honestly, don't remember if we find out if Una was responsible. Sorry, I assume she was though. Yeah, no, totally understandable. Understandable. Like I would not be surprised in the least if like she had someone kill him. Or did it herself, whichever. But with Lynn was heartbreaking. It was. It seriously was. And like on top of everything else, right? You have someone who raised her from a puppy, who went against everything that, like, his dad was saying at that point to save at least one of the dogs. And who protected her, and that was his best friend for, like, wait, years. Because from what I remember, Cormac was like, wait, 8, 9 maybe, when that whole situation happened. And because Una wants to completely break everyone, decides, you know what? This fit right here, this particular person, yeah, I'll just have the entirety of that trust broken. Because it's not just, like, if you don't have control over your own actions, you don't trust yourself. You don't trust yourself to not hurt the ones that you care about, and the ones that you care about have a harder time trusting you. And it's like, it's one thing if it's your own decision and, like, that's on you, but, like, if it's not, jeez, honestly. Mm, no. Seriously, like, in the course of what, like, 2 days max, we've got Eilish, like, almost dying, Lynn being attacked by her human, and the entire, like, emergency room, essentially, annihilated. And, you know, all the kids disappearing, because, there's that too. So, yeah, yeah. And the self-doubt it nearly so. Exactly. Like, if they weren't as close as they are, it probably would have worked. I mean, like, honestly. Ah. I think it took place over more than 2 days because the barn animals died over the course of weeks. True. Yeah. Was the barn... Were the barn animals before or after the wedding? Because the Eilish was the wedding feast. And then I think they were after. Okay, alright. That, yeah. I, admittedly, I was working on this dude's legs, so my sense of time was kind of off a little bit. Yeah. Okay, that makes more sense. So we've got, yeah, we've got Lynn being hit, and yeah, okay. By the time they had to flee, the injuries were healing up relatively well, so there would have been at least like a span of time there. All right, yeah, good point. Oh man, yeah. Honestly, like, I know it's a thing that is in media a lot, you know? And people talk about it where it's like, if if you go after the animals, like if you go after the people, like yeah, it's bad, but you go after the animals and like what are you doing? But it's like the the base cruelty that you need to exhibit to just like go after critters that have done literally nothing. Not, and it's not like, hunting for food because you're trying to like not die or something. Like, all right, yeah, fine, whatever. But the abject, like, lack of I don't know, any goodness really in some characters. Like, I just, what are you doing? Like, seriously. You were notorious in our writing group for being fine with people slaughter, but don't mistreat an animal. Exactly. Exactly. Like, it's kind of funny in a way, really. Like, I'm fine with, you know, I'm fine with like supernatural levels of like blood and viscera and whatever else, but like surgery scenes from like Grey's Anatomy and animals being mistreated in some way is a no fly. You know? Like, what? How is. Like, it makes sense, but, like, how does it make sense? You know? It's just. What? Honestly. And, like, I know it's, plot device and, it moves things forward and it makes us detest Una even more than we might have otherwise. But, like, also, the critters are just doing their thing. Why? Why are you like this? Why are you like this? Like, seriously. But yeah. There's that. So, yeah. That's the last of the notes that I've got. Yeah. It makes sense because people have conscious intentions deserving of karma, exactly. Like, there's certain things where it's like, you might not have brought this level of whatever onto yourself, but like, you must have done something to have that kind of response from somebody. Like, in theory, at least. I realize that there are certain situations, like, that whatever it is just, like, senseless violence. But, like, compared to, you know, a faithful dog who's just like, oh, my human! Snuggles, yay! Like, you don't mess with that. Don't. Nah. Mm-mm. I believe chapters 5 to 6 need a trigger warning for rape. Okay. Good to know going in. So yeah, that's alright. I'll make sure to have the where the I'll I'll make sure to have like the yellow yarn ball of warning updated and like fix it so it works visually and stuff as a thing, or just have text or whatever for that. But yeah, no, that it's good to know that going in. So yeah, just guys, for next week, be aware 5 and 6 uh probably gonna have some heavy elements of, rape and stuff. So be aware of that going in. If you need to skip it for whatever reason, understandable. So yeah. And depending on how it goes, we'd probably like do a short recap the next week for like the main plot points that aren't that. So yeah. All right. That was a good discussion though. Very cool. Okay, so um that's well, okay. So that's all that I've got. Anyone else have observations or analyses or what have you? Or no? Yay, good discuss. Exactly. It was indeed a good discuss. Yay! Yeah. Alright. So, how are we feeling? Do we want to do a raid? Or do we want to just chill and stream a little bit? This goes back to last week. We were surprised to see marigolds in Ireland because we associate them so strongly with Dia de los Muertos. Yeah, that's definitely one of them. Yeah. Actually, let me see. When did marigolds get to Ireland? Okay, 1 second. So, we've got the marigold corn here that's been in Ireland since the Iron Age. We've got the marsh marigold, this guy, that grows in bogs and marshes and things. First record of the wildflower is 78, around Wicklow. It's a very different marigold, exactly. Like, this right here is precisely why, you know, taxonomy and things are important. Ooh, okay. This wildflower was formerly known as marigold, with a reference to the Virgin Mary, and was used in earlier times as a celebration of her at Easter. The juice in this plant is caustic and was used as a remedy in folk medicine to encourage warts to fall off. In County Leitrim, marsh marigold is known as Mayflower, and on May Eve, April 30th, the tradition was that these flowers were placed at the entrance or on the window ledges of homes and farmhouses to ward off evil. It was a reasonably common practice in some areas. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and just with those two, there's one that's an Asteraceae and one that's a Ranunculaceae, so two completely different thingamabobbles. Okay, so we've got those two at least in the Discord. Let's see what wildflowers of. Yeah. Yeah, it's just those two. Um. Hmm. Guessing they don't use the caustic one on the hand. Yeah, probably not. uh. Yeah. Oh. What era would it have been? Glad we asked. Yeah. I type in time period of Daughter of the Forest, and it comes back with it was first published in 1999. No. Uh, fine. Lame. Just not one to stay on. Okay. Well, there we go. Um. Celtic Twilight. Okay. Celtic. Uh. Okay. Celtic Revival. What? What? Okay. So just what? So Wolfskin is set at the cusp of the Viking habitation of Scotland, right? That seems to be about where Marillier likes to write, from what I've seen. And Daughter of the Forest seems to be kind of in that same era, just by virtue of the dress and everything else. You know, that's. So I look up Celtic Twilight era because that's how it was described. And I get the Celtic Revival, also referred to as the Celtic Twilight, was a variety of movements and trends in the 19th and 20th centuries that saw a renewed interest in aspects of Celtic culture. What? Apparently, Yeats published a volume of essays with the same title in 1893, so there's that. Um, Revival and Twilight, yes, exactly. Exactly. I'm glad it's not just me who's like, yeah, what now? Celtic Twilight Folklore and Irish Literary Revival. Okay, so that's about Yeats, I guess. Okay. What? Wait. Okay. Let's see. Alright, well. Apparently I need to look up more of it. I think it's the tail end of the Picts being a thing. Yeah, that's probably. Because there's some mention of the Picts, but the main incursion they're dealing with is the Britons. So, yeah. Yeah, that's about right, yes. Um, yeah, just looking through it, like, the titles for the trilogy look really familiar. I'm pretty sure I only have the first one, if I have the first one, but it's really similar to some of the stories that I've read. Ow. So yeah, very cool. Yeah. Uh, what was the? Ooh, yeah. Um, the pigs were first noticed in AD 297 when a Roman writer spoke of the Picts and Irish or Scots attacking Hadrian's Wall. Their warfare with the Romans during the occupation was almost continual. In the 7th century, there was a united Pict land which already had been penetrated by Christianity. The term Pict originated around the 3rd century AD as a generalized exonym used by the Romans to describe those Britons north of the Forthclyde Isthmus. The term is most likely to have been intended as a pejorative, deriding the perceived barbarism of an unromanized people. There's more than 3, I think there's at least 7. Yeah, that sounds about right. But Dawn of the Forest also works as a standalone. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Alright. Wheel. Ow, ow, ow. Oh, man. That, I think, is all I've got for this week. Yeah. But yeah, no, definitely, when I get my hands on some of them, I have 2 or 3 series that I think y'all would be into. I don't know that one of them is available as audio though. That is the thing. Actually, okay. Well, I've got y'all here. Okay. So, looking forward to it after we've had our way with the next 3 books. Yeah, no, seriously, go for it. Actually, nope. Stop. There we go. No. Okay. I don't know. But yeah. So, yeah. Once I once I rediscover where I put things, there's I think 3 different retellings of Arthurian legends. And at least one that has a lot of the same elements as this does. and some other ones. So yeah, it So there's that. There's that. Yeah. Because like I was scrolling through the Wikipedia page to try and figure out the timeline, like the era, and some of the names sounded familiar, but that might just be because they're familiar for the area. So I don't know. Anyway, yeah, no, I'm not really feeling up to like the rating and whatnots at the moment, but you know, whatever. So yeah, that being said, anyway, thank you for hanging out and being awesome and having a chat about the books and the things and stuff, and it was a fun time. So yeah, have a fabulous rest of your day. I will see you all later. Remember, Thursdays are random crafty slash whatever we end up doing kind of days. And next Monday, we've got chapters 5 and 6 in Daughter of the Forest. Be warned that there is a probable trigger warning for assault in there. So, make of that what you will. With that, hugs. Hugs to everybody. Bye, everybody. Have a good one. I will see you all later. Have a fabulous rest of your day. Thank you all for hanging out and being awesome. It was a fun time. Bye, everybody. And if you're watching this on YouTube, like links and everything are, as always, in the description down below, along with a link to the Twitch if you want to hang out live and observe the shenanigans. Alright. And thank you for the hugs, honeycomb. You're fabulous. Bye, everybody.